Thank you for joining another Pitch Motivator with Pitch Pact. This evening, we have the honor of having Shovon Wiggan from the UK here to tell us about her wonderful brand called Inspire a Doll. Shovon found a need after the birth of her son in 2013, where she found a limited amount of multicultural dolls and zero ethnic dolls. The vision of Inspire a Doll came about when Shovon's niece Fawn was inspired to create a brand, a new doll range that provides little brown girls to love themselves and appreciate their uniqueness. Let's welcome this month's Pitch Motivator from the UK.
My 5-year-old niece Naya twirled around in her princess dress, fixing her silver tiara, checking herself out in the bathroom mirror. Then she examined her beautiful brown skin. "I don't like my skin colour," she declared. "I wish I was lighter. It's prettier." This broke my heart. Thousands of images that are fed to children by the age of 6 are purposefully meant to lower the child's superpower and self-esteem, so that they can be more susceptible to consumption and feel they need to consume and become part of the robotic system that control the world. Being black has its downfalls in life at times, as racism, stereotyping, bias and discrimination are still very prominent, but choosing to lead only with your strengths and I guess force people to see past your skin colour is what I do, so that one day Naya is able to do the same. Learning to love the skin you're in means believing in yourself. Believing in yourself doesn't mean ignoring challenges by any means. I've had to overcome a lot of challenges to get to the place I'm in today. I decided to return to education after having a little boy at 21. I wanted him to be inspired, seeing his mom make something of herself. I enrolled onto a business management course. In my second year of university, I decided to set up a doll business. Now, being a businesswoman and a mom and a student is not for the faint-hearted. I tell my LinkedIn that all the time. I think my son is bored of having a superhero mom now. He rolls his eyes like crazy at me all the time when I tell him about my latest accomplishments. Being a student and studying with so many diverse individuals from all backgrounds and races showed me how important it is for all shades to be celebrated. Equality and diversity gives every individual the chance to achieve their potential, free from discrimination. Good equality and diversity practices ensure people get the dignity and respect they deserve, and that their differences are celebrated. Some of the challenges I faced in business have really helped me love the skin that I'm in. Surprisingly, failure is a fast teacher. My first batch of dolls were actually confiscated at customs due to miscommunication between the manufacturer and I, weeks before we were supposed to launch. I'd paid for shipping, I'd paid tax, I went through the research stage, the prototyping stage, to end up with nothing. At the end was heartbreaking. I had to request a refund from the manufacturer, and with the money that I got back, I found a new manufacturer and proceeded to do the whole process all over again. This was hard at the time, as I felt so disheartened and embarrassed about having to speak to people about this loss. But with failure comes success. As second time around, I knew exactly what to do and what not to do. I had more confidence in my abilities as a businesswoman. Finding a strong team hasn't always been easy for me, but I've been fortunate to have some really loyal people to guide me and pick me up when I fall. I always found it hard to open up to people when I feel like I'm failing, but finding people you can trust who have your back during the bad times is so important in life and business, as there's always something that can go wrong. And when it does, having like-minded people who understand what you're going through and also want the best for you is extremely helpful. And I don't think I would be in this position without the ones I look up to in my life, as you're only as strong as your team. We are all here for a purpose, and constantly comparing ourselves to others isn't a natural way of living. I love the concept of thriving, not surviving, and that's why I no longer have a personal Instagram. I couldn't do it anymore. I also don't watch TV. I want to live a life that is authentic, where my skin colour doesn't turn me into a caricature, a negative one of that, where people like me for me, not for how many followers I have or how many likes I receive. To love yourself fully is truly a superpower, and I've been privileged to be an inspiration for young girls who aren't at that stage yet, to have someone to look up to. I try to be myself authentically, warts and all, which in essence helps me offer a different service, which is unique, which helps me add greater value to the people around me. Growing up, my prettiness seemed like a hindrance at times. I wanted to be seen as one of the boys. I looked pretty on the outside, but didn't feel it on the inside, because I felt different to other girls. I never saw books with characters who looked like me, or girls that had a tomboy edge about them, girls who liked being respected for their personality, not only their hair, style and fashion. As a child, I always wanted to be different. I made sure to stand out from the crowd with my personality. But I used to look at the boys and think, it's easier to be like you guys. Being competitive is actually seen as an asset. Plus, not having to spend hours doing your hair or caring about your nails is a bonus. In my tomboy stage, I rebelled against the quote-unquote pretty label by climbing trees, playing football and racing the fastest boy in my class and beating him repeatedly. When my niece told me all about her concerns, it forced me to start believing in my own individuality even more, rejecting negative stereotypes, redefining beauty, and being unafraid to go along with the crowd.
I know you spoke about the challenges you had in terms of the manufacturer, which I totally get that, because I'm from my former life is in the fashion industry. So I know how it works when dealing with manufacturers. But what have you learned in terms of taking on this role as a creator and dealing with different types of manufacturers? Like, what are your go-to as who you feel comfortable with your brand?
Well, I think communication is really important, because I found my first manufacturer on Alibaba, and they're based in China, and I was speaking to them over WhatsApp. And, there were a few red flags that I think I overlooked because I was so excited in the process of making the doll and, going through all of the creative stuff. But the one issue that was the big issue was that the dolls didn't pass the safety tests when they arrived to England. And I paid more money specifically for that certificate from the manufacturer. So I was not expecting for customs to email me to say, these dolls aren't acceptable, because I'd spent so much time, money, effort. And we were actually planning the launch. I think it was 2 weeks before I received the news about the dolls. So yeah, it was heartbreaking. And the manufacturer, they didn't want to accept any responsibility. So I had to go through the dispute procedures to get a refund back. And it was really disheartening because up until that time, I had a really good relationship with them. And, you know, if they dealt with it properly, I probably still would have used them to do the second batch again. But because they just acted so irresponsible and so, you know, unsympathetic as well, they did not care. I just cut my losses, found a new manufacturer, got the refund, thankfully, and proceeded onwards with the second batch. So I think what I learned is to be resilient and to also look out for the red flags and not ignore them. Yeah, I learned the hard way.
Yeah, well, sometimes it is a trial and error, right? That kind of goes into another question in terms of what challenges have you found in creating this brand? So, you know, we've heard that, you know, you had hit some walls in terms of the manufacturer, but what other challenges have you faced as a Black female in this particular industry?
I think breaking down certain perceptions of what it is to be a Black woman, because I think doing business, there's a lot of people that don't look like you that you have to network with and conversate with, and you know, they may have a preconceived idea of what they expect a Black woman to behave like, which not all the time it's positive. You know, sometimes it's a negative stereotype, and I actually find joy to be able to change their perception and to show them, you know, we're just as articulate as you. You know, we have dreams and goals too. We want the best for our children as well. And I think believing in yourself is really important, especially creating something that's not already there. It can be difficult because there's no one to follow, if you like. You're the one creating that path for yourself. So there's going to be times where you don't believe in yourself. There's going to be times where, you know, society, the pressures of society get to you. But I think just having that self-belief, digging deep when times get tough is important. And I also have a very strong faith in God as well. And I think that God puts something in us. So and I think it's bigger than us. So even when we are scared sometimes, we find the strength to continue. Yeah.
So let's talk briefly about the dolls. You know, Naya. Do tell, there she go.
Okay, so this is Naya, and Naya is actually named after my niece, Naya. And I decided to name the doll after my niece because I wanted her to feel special. I wanted her to know that she was so important that her auntie created a doll just for her with her name. And the doll also has 3 other friends as well, but we launched with Naya to begin with. But the 3 other friends are white. There's one that's white, there's one that's Muslim, there's one that is Chinese. And I just think it's important to highlight diversity, you know, because in my friendship group, we're not all Black girls, we have different races. And I think toys should also mirror that. And like you said, when I had my son and I was going to a lot of toy stores, I didn't see hardly any Black dolls. And I just thought, if I have a daughter, is she going to want to be white? And then my niece, it was literally a few days after I went to the toy store, was when my niece told me she didn't want to be Black. I was like, you see, this thought actually, it's true. You know, the lack of representation does leave Black girls feeling like they're not beautiful or they are less than. So I think my love for my niece is what pushed me to do something as big as creating a business.